Hi, friends, and welcome to the SoulFire Sessions at the intersection of passion and purpose, where you align with what sets your soul on fire. We're your hosts, Alex and Mariah, and we're so grateful that you're here. We are all about reclaiming clarity, rebuilding confidence, and designing a future that actually fits you. So take a breath, feel the spark, and let's step into the fire. Hi, Mariah.
Hey.
Episode 2.
Yay.
Hi, Megan.
Hi.
Welcome to the SoulFire Sessions. We're so happy that you're with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes. Okay, well, we are diving right in this episode. And so, Megan, can you just kind of tell us what you do for a job and just a quick version of what that means?
Yeah, so I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I work with individuals and marriages really on how to reconnect and go deeper in their marriage or in their own hearts. And here's why I think it's so vital for the typical business person is that all of us in these business roles or whatever we do in life, we're constantly in relationship with other people. And what happens in relationship is we hurt people. And what happens is our body starts keeping the score of those hurts. And so my hope, or what I think is important here, is that as we lean into ourselves, our hearts, what blocks us from moving forward in our roles or moving forward as people, that we start paying attention to the blocks that are coming up, not only within us, but also trying to reconnect and rebuild with each other, so that we can be the best portion of ourselves and go set our soul on fire, right?
I love that. And I love every piece of what you described. And I think it really goes to the heart of why we wanted you to be a guest today and why the work that you do, I think, is going to be really valuable for our listener. For instance, you know, anybody that's worked before or has been in relationship with other people. And many people will say that's the best part of their job is working with other people. But also if you ask them, what's the worst part? Oftentimes it's working with other people, right? Or certain people, etc. So do you have any tips or tricks that help in relationships that our listeners could use at home or use at work to ensure that those relationships are as optimal as possible? Because we know nothing's perfect. We're all human.
Yeah.
But any tips and tricks that might help them in the day-to-day?
Yeah. So I think the reality is perfectly what you just said, Mariah. We're all human. So we're all going to miss and we're all going to hurt each other. So I think the reality is the better that we can understand our own moves when there's disconnection or, well, another word to say it is hurt. In a relationship, even in the workplace, how do we move toward and repair? A lot of times what blocks us from repairing is our own blocks that come up. Usually what happens is it's always a limbic response. So if you think about our limbic system being a fight or flight, that's always what's happening in relationship. We're either working out of a longing to connect and we feel safe and we're kind of doing this thing, kind of like we are right now, right? We're just having a conversation. Everybody's kind of engaged. Then something happens where somebody gets hurt and there's a break, there's a disconnect. So then fight or flight comes online. And when that fight or flight comes online, then we make our move. And typically we usually make the same kind of move. So if I was just being transparent with myself, I'm usually a fighter. So my anxiety peaks up and I start having more words. And even if they're not sharp or mean, they're disconnecting and they're leaving a distance, right? We have to know what our move is. When we feel disconnect in a relationship, in a job relationship, we have to know what our body tends to do. Is it going to move forward in anxiety and fight, or is it going to freeze and shut down and move away? Either way, it's an issue because, again, there's no repair. And without repair, it stunts the growth of ourselves and the business.
So I think that's a good pause in that the first thing that a listener can do, or the listener can do, that we can do, is take inventory of our natural responses and reflect on our relationships with the people we live with, our relationships with the people that we spend time with, and think about, are we, when there's conflict or things aren't going ideally, do we fight and engage, or do we do the opposite and shut down and become really quiet? I think
Exactly.
That's a really good point, is knowing ourselves is step one. And if you're not sure, to pause, take a breath, and reflect.
Yeah.
And think about, when's the last time there was conflict in my life? How did I respond?
Exactly.
You mentioned something about paying attention to your body.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, that's actually a great question, Mariah. What's really interesting about our bodies is that they'll pick up on cues actually before our mind does. So if I'm in a relationship and we're doing this thing, we're having a connection, we're talking, we're engaging in a work environment, and I'm in a business meeting, say, and then something goes wrong. Maybe nobody else knows, but inside of me, something hits me. So it could be a gut response. It could be like a pain between my eyes, a chest tension. All of that is cues from your body saying disconnection just happened, right? Oftentimes, what our body is doing is it's trying to alert us. We don't like to live in disconnection. It's actually not even the way we were created to live. And so we're going to respond in a way that awakens us to the disconnection. It's actually a brilliant move, right? So all of a sudden, what hits your body is a sense of anxiety or discomfort. And what our body tends to want to do, or what we want to do with that, is to shut it down, suppress, move away. But if we start to see those kind of body responses as more an alert and pay attention, then all of a sudden we can start making different moves that bring our team closer and can make us do way better and more things than we could ever imagine.
Yeah, if we could just like pause on action steps really quickly, would you be able to just give us some examples of things that might be a blocker? Or it sounded like maybe you were talking about triggers, even that would be a trigger in a workplace. Like what kinds of feelings or things could people experience in these situations?
Yeah, so a lot of things, actually. A lot of what happens inside of a system, a body, relates a lot back to childhood, actually. And so I'm a weird therapist, and so, we do weird things. But that's oftentimes why therapists are touching back on childhood, because it becomes live in the here and now. So in the moment that I'm triggered, say in a business meeting, and my idea gets put down, for example, and I get that feeling inside of my chest that says, okay, I wasn't respected. I don't belong here. My opinion is not valued here. I start spinning out, right? This is all internal. So within that, there starts to be frustration. And then I start telling myself a lot of things about myself, but then also about the relationships that I'm in, my coworkers, my bosses. And all this happens really, really fast. That's what's being so bad, is that we get caught in this kind of spin place. So I think what happens is it's more like a tornado of emotions. And then we get confused of where even we're at. Does that make sense? And so I think the key, if I could hand anything to our listeners, it would be if we can really slow down and listen to the alerts that are happening and lean in and put words to the pain and the disorganization that's coming up, all of a sudden then it gives us a way to walk back in and gain repair with our boss or whoever we are in the rift with. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think it makes a lot of sense. And I really like how you explained it. To give kind of a live example, if you will, when I was young, I was bullied really bad. And kids were mean to me. I was called all sorts of names, teased really bad, all the things. And that may not be everyone's situation, but that was a part of my experience. And so in the workplace, because that's been part of my experience, I might react to something differently than Alex or you, Megan, might react. The same statement, for instance, may hit differently with me because of that experience of being bullied as a child. That's the nerve that it could hit on that causes that tornado. I think it's important to give an example like that. We all have things from, our childhood, and no experience is perfect. And our childhood shapes us and shapes who we are and has a lot to do with how we react today. Absolutely. And I think it's important to share that just because our intent in a meeting or as we're talking to someone is one thing, we don't know the nerve or the experience of the person that we're talking to or talking with. And it may cause a reaction that we didn't intend. Yeah. And so I wanted to share that example, that real example, because I know that is something that's real for me, that in the past, I may feel scared of being teased or scared of being isolated based on my past experience. And that could shape how I respond in a relationship or in a meeting or in a conversation differently than someone else.
Yeah.
I love that you said if we can slow things down, because I think for me, I'm an impulsive person. And when I feel something, I move. And because I shared, I am not someone who shuts down. Sometimes I do, but most of the time I engage. If I can just slow it down enough to recognize, for instance, if Megan, you make a comment in a conversation that you don't mean any harm by, but it causes a feeling inside of me that was very similar to when I was bullied and had those experiences. If I can slow it down and be like, wait, this is Megan, and this is out of context, and this is likely Megan's intent, and this is not the past. It's kind of how I'm processing out loud, how I might slow that down. For those that are more literal, I think understanding what that means is helpful. So trying to give my vulnerable, real self, as an example. Are there other instances or examples that you can give for those that might need a little bit of a clearer picture?
Yeah. I'll just give a couple of me personally, because I think that always lands the best when I can speak for myself. So a little bit of background with me. I grew up with two sisters. I'm the youngest. And I also played soccer my whole life, actually. And so being the youngest, I always had to live up, right? I was always challenged to work harder, be better, because they were bigger, stronger. So you bring that into the soccer world. And then I am being judged by coaches, other players, going against other players. And my goal was to make it into college. And in order to do that, it comes at a massive cost to self in a way that says your value starts to matter only when you perform, right? If you don't perform, then you're sat on the bench or you're kicked off the team. You're definitely not making it to the SEC, right? So fast forward now in the business world, I find it very difficult at times whenever I feel like I'm challenged, or kind of come against, and it's not coming against in a bad way, it's more challenging me to grow. It sends a signal to my brain that says, you're not quite good enough. If you don't fix it somehow, you're going to be kicked off the team and not valued, right? So how do I take that and understand myself and know that my fight response is to move forward and to work harder, which is a great thing. So just like Mariah was saying, her motivation to work harder, it gets us where we want to go. That's the reason we're successful in a lot of ways. So that's why I think it's so important to honor the place inside of us that makes movement, because of the anxiety that starts to work inside of us. However, if I don't ever pay attention to it and I just work harder, then I'm always only working out of a place to find purpose and find my value. Whenever I am valuable, I do have worth, right? And if I can just slow down in that place and start to see, like, wait a second, I do have value and worth. Let's find out really what this person was trying to say. So now I can go forward and say, hey, you said this thing about challenging me to do, to make alliance better in session. Okay. Get closer with clients, help them feel more comfortable. That's just an example. And I felt attacked by it. I'm just wondering, is that just some place you see I can grow? Or do you feel like I'm lacking in this way and it's like because I'm a bad counselor? Two different things, two different statements. So now it gives us a way to talk about the conversation in a way that's going to bring clarity and also help my soul. So I'm not walking away in a web of confusion of like telling myself all these lies about who I am. Now I can walk away saying, no, this person thinks I'm a good counselor and desires me to grow and be better. And that's actually a beautiful place for all of us to be.
Yeah, I think I relate also, since we're all being vulnerable. I will give my short story. But I mean, I struggle with rejection as an adult, and I've had to figure out where that came from as well. And it's from perfectionist tendencies. Same, like I have very high expectations for myself, which causes high functioning anxiety. But when I don't live up to even my own expectations, I feel like I'm a disappointment to other people. And in the workplace, somebody might make a statement, like my boss might say something like, I would prefer if you say it this way, or if you could do this process instead of what you've been doing. And I automatically hear rejection, like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. He doesn't want me here, or whatever lie, I hear and tell myself. And I've had to learn over the last few years to work through that rationally and not allow myself to have all of the irrational thoughts and spiral. And I think that doing that is exactly what you're talking about, slowing down. For me, it was recognizing what the trigger was, where it came from, why I was feeling the way I was feeling about it. And then I used to be like a flee person. I wasn't even a fight or fight. I was like, run away from the situation, get out of this relationship, go away from it and never look back. And I had to, I got married, and you can't just run away from your relationship. So I had to be an adult and figure out, okay, well, fleeing is not a thing that you do when you're upset or have conflict. And so I had to figure out a way to really sit in those feelings, allow myself to have them for a short amount of time, but then figure out, okay, what's real and what is perception, and how do you move through it?
A couple of things. One of the things that I loved that you said, Megan, is honor the place inside of you that makes movement. That is something that I would quote and hang on my wall, because that movement that you're talking about is feeling, right?
Yeah.
Like whether it's good or it's bad. And by honoring it, to break down that word, and for me, that means sitting with it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about what that means. And oftentimes for me, when I feel something, I think about it for a brief moment and then I put it on a shelf and I busy myself. And almost to distract myself from the feeling instead of actually taking the time to process what I'm feeling and where it's coming from and how I'm going to handle it. I think, oh, I'm feeling anxious because I have fear of rejection or fear of being trapped or whatever it is for me. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Set it on a shelf instead of processing, how is my behavior being impacted? How are my relationships being impacted? What do I need to do to manage myself? And then I just get really busy. Yeah. And I mean, I make myself very busy instead of dealing with it. And then oftentimes the behavior continues to show up. And so I think, Alex, what you mentioned, sitting with it, Megan, that quote, or that's what you said, was honoring the place inside of you that makes movement. To me, honoring means sitting with it, taking the time, but not just sit with it for a second and acknowledging it, but actually processing it and thinking about it from a standpoint of what is it impacting and what's the root cause and how am I going to show up differently next time or in a minute or tomorrow or in the next relationship, or what do I need to do now? Maybe I need to apologize or fix that. Then the other comment I wanted to make based on what you said, Alex, and I didn't think of this earlier when you said fight or flight. I learned there's a third one, and it's fawning. And I had a history of doing that. When I started to feel insecure, I became over complimentary and over like syrupy, sweet, because I wanted people to like me, and it was coming from an insecurity, and I almost needed assurance. It was like this. I mean, you guys are shaking your head, so you must get it, know it, have experienced it, seen it, whatever. But I think back and of moments when I did this, and it was insecurity screaming, just trying to get that affirmation of, you don't really hate me, do you? Or you don't really like me. You like me, right? Period, question mark. So I throw that out there because I just learned about fawning.
That's a great point, Mariah, because all of it can show up really in different ways. Those are just the main two we kind of talk about, right? So your move might look different than a fight or a complete flight. It could look more like fawning or freezing in a way that stays in relationship, but just shuts down internally, right? So it can show up a lot of different ways. And the other point that you made, Mariah, was the talking about how to honor it. I love looking at the function of what we're doing because we're pretty amazingly made. And so if we can start to really see our moves as a great function, now, is it working? No. But is there a great function to it? Yes. So just like your move to go away, Alex, and to pull out of relationship, I am positive if I sat with you, it saved you from a lot of hurt, right? And so we don't want to shame that part of us. It's just trying to protect you, right? Just like the fight inside of us and saying like, no, please know my value. I am valuable. Can I prove it to you, right? There's nothing wrong in those moves at a fundamental level. It just isn't going so well in this environment, right? It's just throwing us off track in this moment in life. So I just want to, I love that the honoring piece you're pointing out, Mariah, because when we can start to even, this is going to sound really weird, y'all, so I know what I'm about to say is people are going to think I'm weird. The part of us that can start thanking our body for the function it's giving, right? Because if we just kind of do away with that part and just try and cut that part off, I promise you what's going to happen is next time it's going to come back with a vengeance. And it's going to come back even louder because that part is learned over time to protect you. And if you just try and cut it off and throw it out, I promise you the alarm will get louder. So that's why it's so important to honor it, because then it doesn't it literally, it feels like it can settle that part down, knowing that we get it, and yet we're going to have to make a different move.
I love that. That's really cool. Could you give us an example, like a quick example of what that would look like?
Yeah. So we'll just kind of go with what I was saying. Let me get my mind around the soccer thing. Okay. So if I'm in an environment now where somebody's saying like, yeah, you probably need to do a little bit better job making an alliance with your clients, right? Making you feel more comfortable and safe. And I felt inside of myself defensive. Well, like, why would you say that? I feel like that's one of the best things I do, right? If I'm able to go away and understand, like, okay, that hit me. I felt it in my chest. My chest is tense and it's trying to fight for me to prove my value, right? Don't you know that's the best thing I do? Look at this statement. What it's really saying is, can't you see actually that I'm really good at this? Because if you can't see that, then are you going to think I don't have value? So inside of myself, by myself, I'm slowing myself down. I feel the trigger in my chest. It feels tense. And all of a sudden I can say, hey, wait a second. I appreciate you wanting to fight for me. Again, this is me telling myself this. You're wanting to show your value. It doesn't feel safe for your value not to be seen by people because you get booted out, right? And again, as much as you needed that then, right now, we can make a different move, right? This may not be what they're trying to say. Let's slow down and get curious what's actually going on here. XYZ. It's frustrating. I'm scared. Yes, yes. And that person is just trying to grow you. Okay, well, let's see if that's the case. Hey, George, do you think that that's a place inside of me that is just like really bad? Like I'm really poor at this? Or are you just trying to get me to grow? Like where'd that comment come from? No, I just really think that it's a place that you could grow. I think you're a great therapist, whatever. Great. I appreciate the feedback. Thanks for the discussion and trying to help me grow. It's a different, now I can take it and move forward. Does that help? Does that, Alex, answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So, two things. I love how you explain that, first of all, because I think that the most important relationship that we have in our life is with ourselves to start. And I used to feel some shame around talking to myself and thinking about my thinking. I think as I grew up, matured, had a lot of therapy, I accepted it a lot more. But I think that's a really key piece that I want to make sure our listeners hear is talking to yourself, having that conversation, whether it's out loud or in your brain about what's happening, is a key part of success in
Absolutely.
this. And there's no shame in it. It's healthy. It's called metacognition, thinking about your thinking.
Yep.
So awesome. Love that. Just want to call it out. The second piece, though, Megan, is you have given really great examples that I think hopefully most of the time are the case, where the boss, the manager, the leader, the spouse, the person delivering feedback or that maybe triggers us means well. I have worked in a corporate environment, but that's not always the case. And unfortunately, sometimes they really do think you suck.
Yep.
Or they really do think you are not fit to be a counselor or fit to be whatever. How do we talk to that listener about that experience? Because I would guess that someone listening is like, yes, I asked for the clarification because I thought there's no way they could be telling me I'm a horrible human and don't deserve the air I breathe. But they were like, no, actually, I do think you're a horrible human and you don't deserve the air you breathe. So what then? Like, what do they do?
First of all, hard situation, right? When we don't feel like we can go towards the people that are leaders and get clarification and actually get smacked back down, which in this world, we all know that happens, is highly hurtful to our systems, right? So first off, you're going to need to sit a whole lot longer with the part of you that's been hurt, right? There's going to be a lot of care that needs to go on for your internal system. We cannot just walk away and put that place on the shelf. And if you're in an environment where that's kind of where you live, then I would say that you're probably going to have to do that a lot. And then you're also going to have to use your protective move in a way that is professional and keeps you safe. Yet, when you're at home, you're taking care of your internal self. Does that make sense? That's why I said the protection is helpful. Now, I don't say run away, and I'm not saying fight full speed. What I'm saying is, if I can honor this place inside of myself, then whenever I walk into the environment, I can know who I am and know that I have value despite what you say. And I can stand up in a way that's professional and have a voice for what I think needs to work or how things need to go, the direction things need to go in. And I can stand firm in that. Does that make sense? Does that answer what you're saying, Mariah?
It does. In the middle, I almost asked a question to say, what does care look like? And before I even got the words out, you illustrated it beautifully. And just because I feel like being the devil's advocate or challenging a little bit, I want to push a little bit harder on this sense, because I experienced in my life a period of time where home wasn't safe either. Yeah. And so I was experiencing toxic environment at work, and at home I was in a toxic environment. And so I couldn't provide care for myself in either place. And I think there's probably some listeners out there that, are dealing with, either a bad marriage or bad living situation, or sick kids, or sick parents, or financial issues, or things outside of work that cause their body to feel the movement and to feel the things there. So there's not rest and there's not a period of care, which has been that was part of my story, part of my experience. So what do you do then?
I would say, first thing, we have to have support. We have to have people come along behind. I don't care where you get it, right? You got to have somebody. I don't know if you're a part of what kind of church you're a part of, whether it's, I don't care what denomination or what your background is. You got to have people, somebody that's going to walk life with you, right? I don't care if you put yourself a dog, right? Something that's going to show you and respond to you and love you in these places. So I think that's very first, is that we have to have people, we have to have somebody coming beside us to walk life with. And until that happens, we have to come alongside of ourselves and be our biggest fan. I don't know where you got to do that. I don't know if you got to lock yourself in the bathroom. I don't know if you got to get yourself a therapist, but somehow you've got to find a way to lock arms with somebody until you can get a bigger support system around you, because I promise you can't do that yourself. And until that happens, you can't hand yourself that. I'm letting you know right now, you can do that. It's through slowing down and paying attention. Journal. I don't care if you got to hide the darn thing. You can do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I have goosebumps because you have to take some accountability for your healing and for your care, is what I hear you saying. And nobody else is going to come in on a white horse and save you. You have to save yourself. And sometimes saving yourself means asking for help or joining a community group or joining a church or posting on a mom's group and being like, I need a friend, or telling somebody in the cafeteria by the microwave, I need a friend, or reaching out and saying, help, or be my community, be my village, something like that. Yeah. What I love is you didn't have a victim mentality in that. Not that you don't support the victim, but you gave resources and a challenge to say, we all have struggles. And I think we all can admit we've had periods of loneliness or feelings where we felt alone, but it's on us to say, I need help and to connect.
And to add to that, Alex, sorry, I was going to say one more thing. If you're blocked from that, then I would ask you to sit with your block. What is it then? Blocked? If you're struggling to find support, if you're struggling to reach out to the person at the water fountain,
got it.
Right? What is blocking you from doing that? Right? There's a fear there, right? That I can't somehow be vulnerable to do that. Is it because I'm going to be rejected? Is it because I'm going to fail again? Is it because it's going to reiterate that I'm really alone? I don't know what it is for you, but you got to figure that out, because you got to honor the block in order to move forward to do it. That's your only choice at this point, right?
Again, honor that place inside of you that makes movement, or that's not making movement, is what you're saying. So like that's stuck or that's moving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Full circle moment. Like,
that's a great place.
Sorry about all the questions.
It's awesome. I love it. I think too, it's important to be able to identify your block and get past it, to be able to figure out what sets your soul on fire.
That's right.
So we're going to transition real quick. And something that we are asking on every episode, Megan, is one, what sets your soul on fire?
Oh man, Mariah's been working with me on this one. I think what sets my soul on fire is helping people create deeper connections with inside themselves and with people inside their workplace to create a better product, whether that product is within their business or within inside themselves that kind of lights themselves up to go do more. I really struggled finding this because I thought it had to be a specific thing, like put on a conference or coach people, or like I had all these ideas of what I need, something that sets my soul on fire. And I think mine is more of an idea of just being with people in a way that helps them create vulnerability and deeper attachments to go do what they feel like they should go do.
I love that.
Yeah. I think
that's so great.
Helping people to create connection is almost what you've described. And how beautiful is that? Mm-hmm. In such a disconnected world and work environment. Like, I have all the goosebumps. That's amazing and beautifully stated. And homework complete, Megan. Mm-hmm. Great job. Yes. Love that. Thanks.
I love that you, in doing that and in your conversation with us today, you sort of give people permission to deal with the stuff that they need to deal with. And then you give them the power to find healing in that and to find ways around it, right? Like, we know now, I sat in it, I know what my struggle is, and these are ways I can work around it or work through it. And I think that's beautiful too.
Yeah, this was great.
Yeah. Our second question is, if you could give others advice on how to figure out what sets their soul on fire, what would that be?
Oh boy.
And it can be in relation to what we talked about today or not.
Okay. I think the biggest thing where I think I even was stuck is figuring out where you're blocked. And I think that starting off where you're blocked is usually around a fear, a core fear that you're trying to figure out. So for mine was fear of, hang on, I had a better word than rejection, but I can't find it. So I'm going to use rejection. It was more like feeling like it's a rejection that I'm going to let people down, really. And so I felt like I couldn't step outside of my box of being a therapist because somehow I was going to let down other people around me. So in doing that and even voicing it, it was like freedom for me, where I was like, okay, wait a second. That might be the case. And yes, I might disappoint people. I don't know. Sure. But I am willing to risk and say, like, even if I let people down, my hope is that I impact you though. And that to me felt worth it.
That's so good. I like have a little tear.
I know. Like the thing that I heard you say is what's been most helpful for you is identifying what was standing in your way of finding the thing that sets your soul on fire. And sometimes you have to sit with it, like you talked about, and identifying what fear or insecurity is keeping us from being our best self, our highest potential, living at our purpose, living in alignment, whatever you want to call it. And then wrestling with it and determine the opportunity cost.
Absolutely. That's a great way to put it.
Of thinking about, okay, so what if I disappoint some people? Am I willing to sacrifice, that 30% of the people are disappointed, but 70%, I change their life.
Mm-hmm.
I make an impact so profound that they live a better life, a more connected life.
Yeah.
Like, is that worth it? And again, it's a mic drop moment. So this whole time with you, Megan, has been so impactful and helpful in all the profound ways. So thank you so much for joining us and for being here.
Yeah.
That means so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been an honor to me. Thank you.
Yes. So we have an opportunity for our listeners to find us online. Mariah, what is our website?
TheSoulFire.com.
I believe we have free resources for our listeners as well. Do we have the block sheet out there?
We do. It's under Find Your Flame, I think is what it's called on that tab. There's free resources that the listener can access. And Megan and I actually created a worksheet together for one of our events. And it's out there for our listeners to work through to figure out what their block is, to identify that block, and if they need some help, guidance. And we're also here too. So each of us can be connected through the website. All of our information is out there. You can find us there. So we're happy to be a resource and happy to help.
Yes, we're also on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, and you can DM us there, or you can find our email on the website as well. Megan, again, thank you so much for joining us. This was very knowledgeable and so impactful, and I really hope our listeners have a great takeaway from today.
Yeah, they will. It's going to be awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.